Can I now invite David Hills to talk to us? David is a conservation architect at Purcell, but there's many other strings to his bow. He lectures at the AA occasionally. Poor man works with me on a few projects.
I managed to get that in.
Yeah, oh, did you? Oh, good.
Shameless self-promotion.
Yeah, shameless self-promotion, good. And David's going to talk to us about the historical evolution of the office.
Indeed. Evening, I'm here to get some historical perspective on all of this, as I'm so often called upon to do, looking at the evolution of the office, breaking it down into kind of three headings, I think, really, bite-sized chunks. We've got new developments that aren't new, traditions that aren't really traditions, and then new developments that really are new. And then we'll consider whether we're actually better off after all this couple of centuries or so of development of the office, and indeed what the future holds. It being the London Festival of Architecture, and me being an architect, there's some stuff in there about buildings, but there's also quite a bit there in there about. I didn't say go yet. Quite a bit in there about the culture of the workplace as well. I need every second I can get. Unaccustomed as I am. Right, let's, hold on. Right, let's go for it. Thank you so much. New developments are new coffee shop working. This recent trend is 350 years old. London's first coffee shop was opened in 1652. There became places where business was carried out. Lloyd started Edward Lloyd's coffee shop, leading to the joke that Lloyd started in a coffee house and ended up in an espresso machine. Working from home, people always used to work from home because, of course, there weren't any offices. In 1762, when the Barings set up their home in Mincing Lane, the banking was done downstairs, whilst upstairs, Mrs. Baring raised their 10 children. There's a dog in here. Clerks live there too. They're also doubling up on servants' duties. Corporate headquarters, looking across the skyline, there's a new corporate headquarter, pops up every 5 minutes, but it isn't new at all. East India House here on the left was a purpose-built office in 1726, built to the latest classical style. Somerset House, of course, followed in 1775 and actually contained 17 government offices that I couldn't even say in 20 seconds. The Salt Office, the Stamp Office, the Tax Office, the Navy Office. Telegraph revolutionised communication in the 1830s, transmitting electrical signals over a wire. Sounds familiar? Like email, the telephone brought concerns about stress. A 1913 report claimed people were made hysterical by calls at the rate of 1 a day. Brings us on to workplace stress. In 2015, stress accounted for 35% of all work-related illnesses. Work-related stress isn't new. Charles Lamb here on the left worked at the East India House and told of 13-hour days, punishing overtime weekends, and one of which prompted him to throw himself out of a window, unfortunately. Death begins today, I think, if you were to work in that place with a corporate slogan, and look at that ceiling and that colour and the light. These slogans are not new. Frank Lloyd Wright had slogans carved into the Larkin Soap building there in 1906. At least they had a degree of permanence. It felt like somebody meant it, rather than the sticky vinyl that you can just peel off and replace with the next one. Eating at your desk. 67% of office workers eat at their desk. Studies cite this as a contributing factor to obesity through distracted overeating, poor food choices and inactivity. But it's nothing new. John Stuart Mill there on the right wrote of having a boiled egg and a cup of tea at his desk every morning. No obesity going on there, though. Open plan layouts are still viewed by some as new. A German movement called Bureau Landschaft brought them to our attention in the 1960s, but it goes back much earlier. We've got the Larkin building there again on the right-hand side. This was noted for many innovations, including air conditioning, built-in furniture, suspended toilet bowls, and, of course, open plan, you can see there. In 1975, Business Week famously predicted a paperless office, but it seems as far away as ever today, certainly the office I work in. One place that I am aware that it's come in is Westminster City Planners. Interesting to see how that works out. Certainly, I get very little paper back from them these days, so maybe it's working some way or another. HR departments, they're not new at all. The origins of that actually go back to the original Victorian entrepreneur, or actually a Georgian entrepreneur. That's this kindly looking gentleman here, Robert Owen, on the right-hand side there. He knew that people were crucial to the success of an organisation and that the well-being of employees led to perfect work, and that without healthy workers, the organisation was doomed. Listing of post-war offices in 2015, English Heritage, this is the one. English Heritage listed 14 buildings, showing how architecture responded to radical changes in the way that we work. Its origins actually lie some 30 years earlier in 1987 when Bracken House by Albert Richardson was listed. It's now entering its most significant phase with David working on it, and it's so good the FT are moving back. Heritage partnership agreements, this is a bit of a niche one for people working with historic buildings, but since 2013 it is actually possible to get an agreement, which means you don't have to get listed building consent to make changes within them. Actually goes back to the 1990s with the Willis Dumas building, where we brought in they brought in a management agreement. It was listed as a result of somebody trying to get rid of the swimming pool, would you believe? Traditions that aren't traditions, managers. So until the 20th century, there weren't really any managers. The word management wasn't really used in its modern sense at all. In 1911, there were 500,000 managers in the UK. Now there are 5 million plus. Without managers, office life was quite different. There were no meetings, you didn't have memos particularly, and there was no management speak. Women in the office were a late 19th century innovation to cope with growing workloads, but they caught on pretty quickly. They were cheap. They didn't need promoting because they got married and they left. Until just about the First World War, lady clerks had separate entrances, were often worked behind screens, and in some cases even cages to make sure their morals were not corrupted. Jargon, in the good old days, you didn't need jargon at all. You didn't talk of demising, which actually sounds worse than sacking people. It sounds like you exterminating them like HSBC did. In the 1920s, William Levy just got straight to the point. He said, I'm going to get rid of inefficient men, too highly paid men, elderly men, and men past their work. With the demise of adding machines, typewriters and screaming telephones meant the end of noise. So now there's only light tapping, and my office is very, very quiet. Light tapping, everybody's phones even are on vibrate. The irony is that to cope with this deafening silence, everybody wears earpieces and listens to their music all the time. Casual clothes. The origins of this go back really to 1984 when Apple appeared in grey hoodies to promote their wares. Previously, everybody dressed up for work. This is the 1960s in the city. Nowadays, casual is the norm, but studies are showing how this could cause an employee to feel less focused, finding it difficult to differentiate between their work self and their weekend self. I know I do. Since the reintroduction of open plan, even if we do have offices, they don't have any walls, they've just got glass instead. The same with meeting rooms, so everybody knows your business. If you want to have a private meeting these days, you have to go out in the stairwell to do it. So are we better off at all these new and not so new developments? Well, no, I don't think we are. In the halcyon days of the office in the 1970s, my father worked 9 to 5 for a construction firm. He had his own office, had a canteen, sports facilities, shops and a social club as well. Compare this to my working life, I don't get any of that, and also work evenings and weekends as well. So where is it all heading? Well, the evolution of the office really demonstrates, I think, how adaptable and resilient human beings actually are, and they can overcome even the most overwhelming situations. I think this will continue. This is a man getting extremely frustrated with his workplace and actually finally taking it out on the floor. So it's lost some of its impact, really. I think ultimately people are just going to get on with it and roll with the punches and move with the next innovation and take it in their stride. And remember, if it all does get too much, you can always do what he does. Fight back. Thank you so much.